Let me tell you something important today, something they don't teach you in school and rarely remind you of once life gets heavy. Everything you see around you right now, everything you touch, everything you admire started as an idea in somebody's imagination. Before it was built, before it was owned, before it was celebrated, it was seen by someone who dared to believe in what didn't exist yet. That's where your power is. Not in what you have right now, not in where you came from, not even in what people say you can or cannot do, but in what you are able to imagine and believe is possible. Too many people allow their current situation to talk them out of their future. They let past failures, limited resources, and other people's opinions shrink the very gift that was meant to lift them. Your imagination wasn't given to you to entertain fantasies, it was given to you as a blueprint for your life. When you stop believing in it, you stop believing in yourself. And when you stop believing in yourself, you begin settling for a life that is far beneath your potential. Today is about reconnecting with that inner vision. It's about understanding that imagination is not childish, it's powerful. It's a seed of innovation, growth, and transformation. If you can learn to trust what you see on the inside, even when the outside doesn't agree yet, you will unlock a level of confidence, focus, and purpose that no obstacle can take from you. This is your reminder. Believe in your imagination, because that's where your future is waiting. Your imagination is the birthplace of every breakthrough and achievement, and that truth alone should change the way you see yourself. Before anything meaningful ever showed up in the physical world, it first lived in someone's mind. Every invention, every business, every movement, every success story began as a picture that someone refused to ignore. Long before people applauded it, long before it made sense to anyone else, it existed as an idea that required belief. That same creative power lives inside you, not by accident, but by design. Your imagination is not random, it is purposeful, and it is meant to guide you toward growth. Most people misunderstand imagination because they think it's just daydreaming. They believe it's something you do when you're bored or unrealistic about life. But imagination is actually a form of intelligence. It allows you to see beyond limitations, beyond your current resources, and beyond your present circumstances. When you imagine something better for yourself, you're not being foolish. You're responding to a vision that is trying to pull you forward. The problem isn't that people imagine too much. It's that they stop believing in what they imagine when reality starts talking back. Reality has a loud voice. It reminds you of what you don't have, what went wrong last time, and what other people think is possible for you. But imagination speaks softly. It whispers hope, potential, and possibility. If you don't learn to listen closely, you'll miss it. Every time you silence your imagination because of fear or doubt, you delay your own progress. Breakthroughs don't come to people who wait for perfect conditions. They come to people who act on a vision long before it becomes obvious. Your imagination gives you permission to grow beyond who you are today. It allows you to see yourself doing things you've never done, becoming someone you've never been, and living a life that doesn't yet match your environment. That inner picture is not meant to mock you. It's meant to motivate you. When you hold on to it, you start making different decisions. You start learning more, working harder, and walking away from things that don't align with the future you see. Imagination doesn't replace effort, it directs it. Believing in your imagination also means accepting that not everyone will understand you. Some people will call your ideas unrealistic because they've never allowed themselves to dream beyond survival. That's not your burden to carry. Your responsibility is to protect your vision long enough for it to mature. Everything that eventually changes your life begins as something fragile, something unseen, something that only you believe in at first. When you honor your imagination, you honor the process of becoming more than you've ever been. And that's where every true achievement begins. What you can clearly imagine, you can intentionally work toward. Nothing meaningful in life happens by accident. It begins with clarity. When your imagination is vague, your actions will be scattered. But when you take the time to truly see something in your mind, When you can picture it, feel it, and understand it, your behavior naturally starts to align with that vision. Clear imagination gives direction to effort. It turns random movement into purposeful steps, and it transforms hope into a strategy. Many people say they want success, peace, or growth, but they cannot describe what those things look like for them. Without a clear picture, the mind has no target, and when the mind has no target, it defaults to comfort. That's why imagination is not about dreaming loosely, it is about seeing specifically. When you imagine clearly, you begin to recognize opportunities that were always around you but invisible before. Your mind starts filtering information differently, guiding your decisions toward what supports that vision and away from what distracts from it. Imagination also trains discipline. When you can see where you are going, you become more willing to endure what it takes to get there. Sacrifice makes sense when there is a destination attached to it. Late nights, early mornings, rejection and discomfort stop feeling like punishment and start feeling like preparation. Clear imagination gives pain a purpose. It reminds you that what you are building tomorrow is more important than what you are avoiding today. Intentional work is born from intentional thinking. Once you imagine clearly, your goals stop being emotional wishes and become practical plans. You begin to ask better questions. What skills do I need? What habits must change? Who do I need to learn from? Each answer leads to action, and each action strengthens belief. The more you act in alignment with your imagination, the more real it becomes, not just in your mind, but in your life. There will be moments when reality challenges your imagination. Progress may be slow, and results may not appear immediately. This is where belief becomes essential. Clear imagination does not mean instant results, it means sustained focus. You continue working not because you see proof, but because you see possibility. Over time, consistency closes the gap between what you imagined and what you experience. When you clearly imagine something, you are giving yourself a mental map. And when you follow that map with consistent, intentional effort, you stop drifting through life and start directing it. Your imagination shows you what is possible, but your work makes it tangible. That connection between seeing and doing is how ordinary people create extraordinary outcomes. Most people think failure is what stops dreams, but in reality, it's doubt that shuts everything down long before failure ever shows up. Doubt creeps in quietly. It sounds reasonable. It tells you to be practical, to wait until you're ready, to consider what could go wrong. And before you know it, that voice has talked you out of ideas you never even tried. Your imagination can survive failure because failure teaches, adjusts, and strengthens you. But doubt convinces you not to start at all. It paralyzes imagination and replaces vision with fear. Doubt often comes disguised as logic. It reminds you of your past mistakes, your lack of resources, or where you come from. It compares your beginning to someone else's success and tells you that you're already behind. What you must understand is that imagination doesn't require proof to exist, it requires belief. Every person who has ever accomplished something meaningful had to move forward without guarantees. They didn't have all the answers. They simply trusted what they saw inside more than what they saw around them. When you allow doubt to dominate your thinking, you begin editing your dreams to fit your fears. You shrink your goals so they feel safer. You settle for less because it feels familiar. Over time, this creates a life that looks acceptable on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. The tragedy is not that people fail. It's that they never allow their imagination the freedom to breathe. They silence it before it has a chance to guide them toward growth. You have to learn how to talk back to doubt. Doubt is not a sign that you're incapable. It's a sign that you're standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. Growth always feels uncomfortable because it demands change. Instead of asking, what if it doesn't work? You must train your mind to ask, what if it does? That single shift keeps imagination alive. It keeps ideas moving forward instead of dying in your head. Believing in your imagination doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let reality define your limits. It means understanding that confidence is built through action, not waiting. Every small step you take weakens doubt and strengthens belief. And once belief becomes stronger than doubt, your imagination regains its voice. When that happens, you stop waiting for permission. You stop needing validation. You begin trusting yourself. And that trust is what turns imagined possibilities into real outcomes. Most people want results before they ever develop a vision, but life doesn't work that way. You don't receive provision until you establish vision. You have to see it before you ever touch it. You have to believe in it before it ever shows up. Vision is the ability to picture a future that does not yet exist and still move toward it with confidence. When you lack vision, you drift. When you lack vision, you settle. And when you lack vision, you become dependent on circumstances instead of direction. That's why so many people stay stuck, not because they aren't talented, but because they never clearly decided what they were aiming for. Vision forces you to think beyond today's limitations. It challenges your comfort zone and stretches your faith. When you truly see where you're going, you stop being distracted by where you are. Your environment may say not possible. Your bank account may say not now. And people around you may say be realistic. But vision allows you to respond with patience and persistence instead of panic. It gives you the strength to wait without quitting and to work without complaining. Without vision, hard work feels pointless. With vision, even struggle has meaning. Provision always follows clarity. Once you know what you're building, your decisions change, your habits change, your priorities change. You begin to notice opportunities you were blind to before. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve your future. You start aligning yourself with people, information, and environments that support what you see ahead. That's not luck. That's vision creating focus. When the picture becomes clear, the path begins to reveal itself step by step. A lot of people say they're waiting on resources, but what they're really missing is direction. Money doesn't create vision. Vision attracts money. Support doesn't create belief. Belief attracts support. When you walk with purpose, life responds differently to you. Doors open because you're prepared to walk through them. Lessons show up because you're ready to learn. Even setbacks become tools instead of stopping points because you understand where you're headed. Seeing it first doesn't mean it will happen instantly. Vision requires patience and discipline. It means trusting the process even when progress is slow. Means staying committed when results aren't visible yet. Vision is not about fantasy. It's about intentional imagination backed by action. Every great outcome starts with someone daring to see beyond the present moment and refusing to let doubt erase the picture. If you can train yourself to see your future clearly, you'll stop begging life for permission to grow. You'll move with confidence, even in uncertainty. Because once vision is established, provision is only a matter of time. Imagination requires courage because it asks you to step beyond what is familiar and comfortable and into a space where outcomes are not guaranteed. When you begin to imagine a life greater than the one you are currently living, you automatically challenge the limits that have been placed on you by experience, environment, and expectation. That is not easy. It takes bravery to admit that where you are is not where you want to stay, and even more bravery to believe that you deserve more. Imagination confronts reality, and reality often pushes back. It tells you to be practical, to be safe, to stop dreaming and start settling. Courage is the decision to keep imagining anyway. Many people never lack talent or opportunity. They lack the boldness to trust what they see within themselves. The moment you imagine something bigger, doubt shows up. Fear starts asking questions like, what if it doesn't work? Or who do you think you are? These questions are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are proof that you are stepping into unfamiliar territory. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward despite it. Imagination demands that kind of courage because it forces you to act before you have, proof to believe before you receive, and to prepare before the reward appears. Imagination also requires courage because it often separates you from the crowd. When you begin to think differently, you start to walk differently. Your goals won't make sense to everyone, and your vision may even make some people uncomfortable. Not everyone will understand what you are building in your mind, and some will try to talk you out of it. Courage is choosing not to shrink your dreams just to make others feel comfortable. It is understanding that your imagination was given to you, not to them, and that approval is not a requirement for purpose. Another reason imagination takes courage is because it exposes you to failure. To imagine is to risk disappointment. If you never dream, you never lose, but you also never grow. Courage allows you to accept that failure is not a verdict on your worth, but a lesson in your development. Every attempt, even the ones that don't work out, strengthens your belief system and sharpens your vision. Imagination teaches you that setbacks are not stop signs, they are adjustments along the journey. In the end, courage and imagination work together to shape your future. Imagination shows you what is possible, and courage gives you the strength to pursue it. When you choose to honor your imagination, you are choosing to trust your potential over your past, your vision over your fears, and your growth over your comfort. That decision changes everything, because the moment you become brave enough to imagine more, you become strong enough to become more. Your background does not limit your imagination unless you allow it to. Where you come from, what you grew up with, and what you were exposed to may shape your experiences, but they should never define the size of your dreams. Too many people believe that imagination is reserved for those with privilege, education, or connections, but imagination doesn't respond to status, it responds to belief. You can come from nothing and still imagine everything. The danger is not a lack of opportunity. The danger is accepting the false idea that your past decides how far your mind is allowed to go. Your environment may have taught you what survival looks like, but your imagination is designed to teach you what growth looks like. If you were raised around limitation, struggle, or constant doubt, it can be easy to assume that dreaming big is unrealistic or irresponsible. But imagination is not denial of reality. It is the tool that allows you to change it. History is filled with individuals who started in places that offered no advantage, yet they refused to let their surroundings silence their vision. They imagined a life beyond what they saw every day, and that imagination became the fuel that pushed them forward when nothing else made sense. What often holds people back is not their background, but the stories they keep telling themselves about it. People like me don't succeed. Nobody from where I'm from makes it. I don't have the right education or connection. These statements shrink imagination and replace it with fear. The moment you challenge those thoughts, you begin to expand mentally. Once your imagination grows, your actions begin to change. You start making different decisions, seeking better information, and aligning yourself with opportunities you would have ignored before. Your background becomes a chapter in your story, not the title of your life. Believing in your imagination requires you to separate who you are, becoming from where you started. You are not meant to stay defined by old limitations. The very fact that you can imagine more is proof that you are capable of more. Imagination is evidence of potential. It shows you what your mind knows is possible, even before your circumstances catch up. When you honor that vision instead of dismissing it, you begin to build confidence that no external condition can take away. Your background can teach resilience, humility, and hunger, but your imagination teaches direction. When you combine the lessons of your past with belief in your vision, you create forward movement. The goal is not to erase where you came from, but to refuse to be imprisoned by it. When you believe in your imagination, you reclaim ownership of your future and give yourself permission to rise beyond every label, expectation, and limitation that once tried to define you. Imagination by itself is powerful, But without discipline, it remains nothing more than a beautiful thought. Discipline is what gives structure to what you see in your mind. It is the bridge between dreaming and doing, between vision and reality. Many people imagine success, imagine change, imagine a better life, but very few are willing to commit to the daily habits that bring those imagined ideas to life. That's where discipline separates wishful thinking from real progress. Discipline is choosing consistency over convenience. It means showing up even when motivation is low, even when results are not immediate, and even when no one is watching. Your imagination might show you the end result, but discipline teaches you patience with the process. Every great outcome is the result of repeated small actions done with intention. You don't wake up one day living your vision, you build it step by step through disciplined effort. When you discipline your mind, you protect your imagination from distraction and doubt. The world is full of noise, opinions, and temptations that pull your focus away from what truly matters. Discipline helps you say no to what doesn't serve your vision so you can say yes to what does. It trains you to manage your time, your energy, and your thoughts in alignment with what you imagine for your life. Without that structure, even the best ideas fade under pressure. Discipline also teaches responsibility. It reminds you that no one else is obligated to bring your imagination to life but you. You cannot wait for perfect conditions, approval, or motivation to arrive. Discipline shows you how to move forward despite fear, uncertainty, and discomfort. It transforms excuses into effort and replaces procrastination with purpose. The more disciplined you become, the more confident you grow, because you begin to trust yourself to follow through. Another important truth is that discipline strengthens belief. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. That belief fuels your imagination even further, creating a powerful cycle of vision and action. You start to see that your dreams are not unrealistic. They are simply waiting for your commitment to catch up with them. Discipline does not mean perfection. It means progress. It allows room for mistakes while demanding accountability. You will stumble, you will fail, and you will feel discouraged at times. But discipline teaches you how to get back up without quitting. It keeps your imagination alive long enough for it to mature into something real. If you truly believe in your imagination, you must honor it with discipline. Ideas deserve effort. Vision deserves structure. Dreams deserve action. When discipline becomes part of your daily life, your imagination stops being a fantasy and starts becoming your future. When you trust your imagination, you are doing more than daydreaming. You are giving yourself permission to grow beyond the limits of your current circumstances. Imagination is the quiet voice inside you that shows you who you could become before the world ever recognizes it. It allows you to mentally step into a future that does not yet exist and begin preparing yourself for it today. Many people never move forward in life because they wait for proof before they believe. But imagination works the other way around. You must believe first, even when there is no evidence, even when the numbers don't add up, and even when the people around you don't understand your vision. Your circumstances are temporary, but your imagination is timeless. Where you are right now does not have the authority to define where you are going unless you allow it to. When you trust your imagination, you stop letting your environment dictate your expectations. You begin to see beyond limitations like money, education, age, or background, and you start focusing on possibilities. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let reality trap you. Growth begins the moment you decide that your future deserves more attention than your past. Believing in your imagination also requires courage because it often separates you from the crowd. Most people feel safer following what is familiar, even if it doesn't fulfill them. But imagination calls you to step into uncertainty with faith. It asks you to invest effort into something that may not pay off immediately. That's why discipline becomes essential. You don't grow by imagining once, you grow by repeatedly aligning your actions with what you see on the inside. Every habit you build, every skill you sharpen, and every sacrifice you make becomes a bridge between imagination and reality. There will be moments when your imagination feels unrealistic, even foolish. You may hear voices, some external, some internal, telling you to be practical, to settle, to stay where you are. But practicality without vision leads to stagnation. The people who change their lives are not the ones with the safest plans. They are the ones who trusted an idea long enough to work for it. Your imagination is not random, it is connected to your purpose. It shows you what you are capable of becoming if you are willing to grow into it. When you trust your imagination, you stop asking for permission to evolve. You understand that growth is uncomfortable but necessary. You learn that setbacks are not signs to quit, but lessons to adjust. Most importantly, you begin to see yourself differently, not as someone limited by circumstance, but as someone in progress. Believing in your imagination is an act of self-respect. It is choosing growth over fear, vision over doubt, and faith over hesitation. And once you make that choice, you will realize that your imagination was never lying to you. It was preparing you all along.